Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Vakratunda Mahakaya Surya Koti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Guru Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaste friends. Team Param Vedanta welcomes you all for the session 48 of Gift Gita for Inner Freedom and Transformation. Last class, we have studied the verses from 9.18 to 9.22. In today's session, we will be studying the verses from 9.23 to 9.27. To explain these verses, we have with us Dr. Soumya Naik, Mr. Vijayan, Srimati Smita Pai, Srimati Kirti, and Mr. Amitabh Saharai. And today's moderation, presentation, and deeper inputs will be given by Dr. Sundar. Over to you, sir.
सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् ॐ हरि ओम् Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. We are now in the middle of the 9th chapter. So I wish to take a very broad overview of the entire Madhyama Shatakam and then also overview of the 9th chapter itself. So we see through the teaching of Lord Krishna in the Madhyama Shatakam that God exposes us to various forms of bhakti. He exposes us to various forms of karma, and he also teaches us what are the different types of bhaktas which are there, what are the approaches, who takes to material goal, who takes to spiritual goal, what are the different margas which are there, what is the final destination itself. So this slide captures the entire spectrum that is available. We saw in the 15th and 16th shlokas of the 7th chapter that Lord Krishna differentiated dushkritinaha and sukritinaha. So in the further discussion through the Madhyama Shatakam, this dushkritinaha are kept out. They are not part of the discussion. So those who take to nishiddha karmas are not part of the discussion, they are kept out. Now in the next verse, 16th verse, he comes up more inclusively to talk about sukritinaha. So these believe in God, unlike the dushkritinaha who are non-believers. Among such believers, we see Lord Krishna bring about a broad classification based upon what is the approach of the bhaktas, whether their approach is using God as a means for material ends or using the material ends as a means for God himself. So in other words, selfish versus selfless. So in the first group are those bhaktas who are unaware of the precious essence which in each of them, and they are on the lookout for material benefits which are outside of them, and they make God a partner in their accomplishments to achieve those material accomplishments. So this is what is defined as sakama bhakti. and the bhaktas are artharthi bhaktas. So they remember God only when there is trouble or when they are beginning an endeavor. So therefore, their focus is always on the end, which is material accomplishment, and the focus on the means, which is God, is very fleeting now and then. So their connect with God is certainly less permanent than the next group, which we are going to see shortly. So this group is after material results, they are after dharma, artha, kama. Their sankalpa or the thought process when karma is happening is about dharma, artha, kama. And the path they take is called as prayo margaha. So this is discussed a lot in the 7th chapter, and Lord Krishna says there that even those will be blessed by him if they have got shraddha. So we have verses there where he says that he'll reinforce the faith for sakama bhakti. The idea there is that let the bhakta not fall in this gray zone. Let him be a no bhakta. Instead of no bhakta, let him at least be a sakama bhakta. But with some maturity, having received a lot of whatever we have asked for from God, we realize that although I am blessed so much, I have got so much prosperity, yet lasting happiness, peace, and security is elusive. So some of these then question whether their approach of world as a end and God as a means is correct. This is what is described in Parikshalokan Karma Chitan verse of the Mundakopanishad. So few intelligent of them then question this approach. They reverse their approach. They now already have a lot of material accomplishments. They come to know from a master that lasting happiness, peace, and security is of the nature of God himself. They use all their worldly accomplishments now as a means. So you can see the equation being reversed. Earlier it was God as a means and world as an end. Now they reverse. The entire accomplishments they have, they use it as a means, and God, in the form of happiness, lasting happiness, peace, and security, is now their very goal itself. Since God is now the goal, their connect with God is more continuous. We see the word ananyaha many times in the Madhyama Shatakam. This is reference to the kind of bhakti that the nishkama bhakta has, because for him the end as God is at all times. It is no longer fleeting like it was with the sakama bhakta. So those who take this approach, which is called as nishkama bhakti, are termed as jijnasu bhaktas, and their sankalpa or the thought process is one of moksha sankalpa. Moksha doesn't just mean some wonderful word like liberation. For us, it means lasting happiness and peace and security. So that is the sankalpa, and this path that they take is called as the Shreyo Marga. We see through the teaching of the Madhyama Shatakam that Lord Krishna further has two types of those bhaktas who take to nishkama bhakti or selfless bhakti. Unlike the earlier group, these are after spiritual results, but having taken to nishkama bhakti, having attained chitta shuddhi, depending upon whether they get the benefit of a guru, whether there is a benefit of Guru Shastra Upadesha, they either worship God in the form of Saguna Ishvara, which may be a deity in the form of an idol, or as Vishwarupa Ishvara itself. And this approach is called Nishkama Saguna Bhakti. And as we saw in the 8th chapter, such a approach does not give rise to freedom here and now. Instead, because of continuous connect with God at all time, they have this connection even at the time of death. As we saw in the 8th chapter, they go to Brahmaloka, where they get opportunity for Guru Shastra Upadesha, and then they get Mukti, which is called as Krama Mukti. The second group among these Nishkama Bhaktas are those like us perhaps who have been fortunate to have the benefit of Guru Shastra Upadesha. who have been able to do Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasanam, Lord Krishna promises in these chapters that there is freedom here and now that is possible to achieve. So while Krama Mukti was the subject matter in the 8th chapter, Jivan Mukti is the subject matter in the 7th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and the 12th chapters. We cannot leave out one more approach, one more type of bhakta, which is the final culmination, which in the Madhyama Shatakam is referred to as the Jnani Bhakta. He is the Advaita Bhakta or Para Bhakta. He is verily the destination itself, because for him the Shravana Manana Nididhyasanam has fructified following Jnana Yogyata Prapti with enough karma upasana yoga. He is able to spontaneously abide in his true nature. He is now able to define all his emotional responses in tune to the Atma Tattvam within him. For him, there is no difference between what he is and what he knows. So that, therefore, is the total picture that Lord Krishna is trying to build us through the Madhyama Shatakam. So I wanted to put this in the background of the previous slide, that we should know that the main message of the 8th chapter is not clearly Krama Mukti. It is actually how to remember him at all times, and that skill that he teaches us in the 8th chapter will take all of us to Jivan Mukti here and now. So the Krama Mukti is mostly a side lane. It's not the main path of the Madhyama Shatakam. With this broad overview of the Madhyama Shatakam itself, let us now revise what we have studied so far and what are the topics in the 9th chapter itself. So we started off with introduction, and we can see here that there is quite a bit of similarity between the 7th and the 9th chapter. In both the chapters, Lord Krishna begins with an incredible promise, with the promise that he shall bring us face to face with God. And that God in both the chapters he defines as Jnanam and Vijnanam. So this is the introduction. The glory that he brings in here is also the title of this chapter. Lord Krishna calls this knowledge as Raja Vidya and Raja Guhyam. We have seen why is it Raja Vidya, because this is the only Vidya of all the Vidyas out there that talk about Satyam. There are 4 which are capable of giving moksha and which are capable of removing all adequacies at all levels: physical, mental, emotional, intellectual. He also brings about the necessary qualification in this first segment, which is anasuyave, that we should not have this criticizing kind of a mind or a doubting kind of mind. Then we move to the second topic in the 9th chapter. This describes the nature of God. So I brought about the similarity with the 7th chapter. God is para and apara. In the 7th chapter, there was a lot of discussion on apara. The para was just one sentence there as ye edam dharyate jagat. That was the line which just mentioned para. Now in this chapter, Lord Krishna teaches a lot more verses about Paraprakriti or Brahman or Atman. So there are some 9 definitions of Brahman which form the second topic in this chapter, which are covered in the verses 4 to 10. So the first one was a description of Avyakta Murtina, which means formless nature of God. And the second description was Maya Tatamidam Sarvam, God is all pervading. Matsthani Sarva Bhutani is the substratum. Now, being formless, being all pervading is difficult to understand. He makes it more so difficult by following up Matsthani Sarva Bhutani. The next sentence is Nacha Matsthani Bhutani. I am the substratum, and yet he says that none of that is there. So this we have seen in a detailed discussion is meant to show the transcendent nature of God also. The previous Maya tatamidam sarvam brought about the immanent form of God. That is, he is in and through everything. But when he says Nachamatstani Bhutani is also bringing in the transcendent form of God. What that means is, although I am in and through this creation, nothing in this creation can touch me. He is one plane of reality above what is the Vyavaharik Satyam. Then we saw the description of Srishti, Sthiti, Karanam. This is a kind of a step down from the more difficult to understand form of God, the 4-5 definitions that he gives in the beginning. Then there are definitions that this God is Asanga. We just now talked about transcendence and immanence. Nothing in this universe touches the true form of God. Then we saw Tani karmani na nibadnanti. So that was the definition of akarta and abhokta form of God. Then we saw mayadhyakshena suyate prakritihi. So that was the sakshi principle. So in this manner, some 9 definitions of Brahman are there. And this makes this portion or the entire 9th chapter itself as a form of Upanishad Sara. Then we go to the third topic of this chapter. Lord Krishna, again similar to the 7th chapter, comes about to give what is the cause for samsara. And the cause is avajananti mam mudaha. Most of the creation, humans, do not know param bhavam. They do not know that he is bhuta maheshwaram. Now, these are the references to the 9 definitions of Brahman, which was there in the previous topic, which is paraprakriti. Paraprakriti is not tangible. So, therefore, avajananti, they disregard this paraprakriti and instead manushim tanum ashrita. They take to the human form of Lord Krishna. So, in other words, getting lost in a paraprakriti, not able to identify that paraprakriti, that one in the play of many, that is the cause of samsara. Then he goes to discuss what is the upaya for samsara nivritti. And this happens in a peculiar way in this chapter where the Lord identifies a group who are like atheists or non-believers. So they have wrong knowledge, therefore they have wrong desires, therefore they take to wrong karmas. Mogasha, moga karmanaha, that was the verse to say, to describe what is the approach taken by the non-believers. And of course, they get into trouble because of that approach. Then the chapter moves on to believers. He refers to Mahatmanaha, who, unlike the previous group, take to the right approach, which is the nishkama bhakti approach, which we saw in the first slide of today's presentation. And therefore, like the 7th chapter, we come to a juncture where bhakti is samsara nivritti upaya. This chapter, Lord Krishna discusses comprehensively the types of bhakti, which is of the form of Eka Rupa Ishvara, or worship of an idol in a temple, and Aneka Rupa Ishvara, or Vishwarupa Ishvara, which is looking at divinity in the whole creation itself. This is the second type of bhakti. And the third type of bhakti is to identify the paraprakriti, which alone appears as this creation. This creation is merely name and form. Paraprakriti, Brahman or Atman alone is. So these are the 3 levels of bhakti that he comprehensively discusses. Then of these 3 types, we are in Madhyama Shatakam getting prepared, ready for the ultimate type of bhakti, which is Arupa Ishvara Bhakti, the 3rd level. Before that, there are 2 levels, Ekarupa and Vishwarupa Ishvara Bhakti. Lord Krishna has already nudged us beyond the Ekarupa Ishvara Bhakti in the 7th chapter. He was quite harsh by calling them who are only after Ekarupa Ishvara as Mudaha. So in this chapter, there are 4 to 5 verses which describe what is Vishvarupa Ishvara Bhakti. So there are verses which say that we should look at mother as God, father as God. So he starts off with things which are familiar to us, which are there in our surroundings, and gradually expands to look at everything which is around us as divine. So this was the presentation by Lord Krishna about bhakti being a way for samsara nivritti. Having done that, Lord Krishna then enters the next topic, which is the topic which concerns the present discussion in the present Gita sessions, which is about 2 types of bhaktas. And the last verse which we studied in the last class was a very popular verse, Ananya Chintayanto Mam Te Ye Jana Paryupasate Tesam Nityabhiyuktanam Yoga Kshemam Vahamyaham. Before going into the present day's verses, just a look at what is the approach or nishkama bhakti which Lord Krishna is presenting in that verse. So, as I said earlier, the key word in the 22nd shloka is Ananya Chintaha. Ananya means in a way that there is no second. Chintane is about thoughts. Ananya Chintayanto means there is no second thought. Doesn't mean that I'd stop doing all my work. At all points, whatever chore that I might be doing, am I able to do Ishvara Arpanam, Ishvara Prasada? Am I able to look at everything around me as Vishwarupa Ishvara? If these 2 things are happening, then automatically Ananya Chintane is happening. So, by using the word Ananya Chintayantaha, Lord Krishna is referring to Nishkama Bhaktas, and his promise in that verse is that Yoga Kshemam Vahamyaham. The worry for a Nishkama Bhakta is, if I think about God at all the time, how will I earn my living for my family? So let me solve my problems first and then think about God at all the time. So Lord Krishna is saying that I shall take care of your Yoga Kshema. You just pursue Vishwarupa Ishvara Bhakti and do Karma Yoga as Ishvara Arpanam, Ishvara Bhava, Ishvara Prasada Bhava. I shall take care of your needs. That is the promise. That is the approach of Nishkama Bhaktas. Let us now look at the verses today, which are in contrast to that and describe what is sakama bhakti. And in these verses, let us see how Lord Krishna is comparing to nishkama, pointing out the negatives in sakama bhakti, and he is nudging us why we should move towards nishkama bhakti. Then, of course, this chapter ends with glory of bhakti. There are verses which shows that bhakti is universal. Lord Krishna's promises there that his devotee never perishes. And the chapter ends with a beautiful shloka where there are 5 stages that are described in approaching to him. So this is where we are, 2 types of bhaktas. And this table itself I won't cover because one of the speakers is going to compare and discuss what are the 4 differences between sakama and nishkama bhakti. Except that let us focus on the strip at the top. This is the continuum that we see in the Madhyama Shatakam. And Lord Krishna is slowly nudging us, drop Nishiddha Karma right now where you are. It's okay to be in sakama bhakti or do sakama karma initially. I shall bless you if you have shraddha. But then gradually may you move on to spiritual accomplishments from material accomplishments and take to nishkama karma. And then gradually become gunatita by taking to jnana karma sannyasa. So that's the spectrum he is nudging us to move to. With this, I invite the first speaker today, Soumya, over to you.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Chapter 9, verse 23. Yebhya anya devata bhakta yajante shraddhayanvitaha tepi mamev kaunteya yajantya avidhi purvakam. Kaunteya, O son of Kunti, apite, even those, ye api anya devata bhakta, who are devotees of other finite gods, yajante, and who worship them, shraddhayanvitaha, with faith, yajanti, are worshipping, mam eva, me alone, avidhi purvakam, unknowingly. So the verse meaning is, O son of Kunti, even those who are devotees of other finite gods and who worship them with faith are actually worshipping me alone unknowingly. So here in this verse, Krishna is talking about even when the sakama bhaktas are worshipping the finite adhisthana devatas, they are worshipping me only, and they do have the result. They do have the right to get moksha as a result of their puja, but they do not know the importance of nishkama bhakti. Ye api anya devata bhakta, those people who are devoted to all other deities like Shiva in Shiva Purana or Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, where they represent the Purna Ishvara, or other deities like Apurna Adhisthana Devatas like Indra, Varun, Agni, Navagraha, etc. They are actually worshipping the Purna Ishvara itself. So in the next slide, we see Yajante means Pujayante. They choose the deity based on their desire, and the puja will be based on the deity. And this could even include black magic deities or prayer to the devatas, or like in the picture, they pray to Lakshmi and ask for wealth. But how do they do this? Shraddhayaha, with faith in the whichever deity they are praying. For example, the Dura Devata, Satvik Devata, Rajasa Devata. But and they have got faith because they are doing this puja. Avanti means possessing. They possess Shraddha. So Shraddhayanvitaha. Te api mam eva kaunteya yajanti. Te api means sakama bhaktas. These sakama bhaktas mam eva yajanti. They are worshipping me alone. Me means the Purna Ishvara alone. Even though their deity is Apurna Devata, indirectly they are worshipping the Purna Ishvara alone. So in the next slide, we can see how Dayanand Swamiji has beautifully explained this with an analogy. He says, even though you touch a wave in the ocean, you are indirectly touching the ocean itself because the ocean pervades the wave. The last but the crucial word of this verse is avidhi purvakam. Avidhi means ajnanam. Adi Shankaracharya says, avidhiha ajnanam tat purvakam ajnana purvakam yajante iti arthaha. And ajnana purvakam means with ignorance these people are doing puja. And how is their ignorance revealed? Their sakama bhakti reveals the ignorance of the value of nishkama bhakti. Thank you.
Thank you, Soumya. So you have covered points from the Bhashyam also. So in the Bhashyam, how is the previous verse connected to this verse? So previous verse said, Ananya Chintayanto Mam Yejana Paryupasate. Lord Krishna is telling Mam, that is, if people worship him, he shall take care of their yoga kshema. So this question is asked that, what about other devatas? For them, is Lord Krishna not going to take care of their yoga kshema? So that appears to be a negative there. In that way, the verse is connected to the previous shloka. So who are these Anya Devatas? Are they inferior to Krishna? Such a question is raised in the Bhashyam. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna represents the infinite or Arupeshwara, Nirguna Swarupeshwara, or Brahman. In Shiva Purana, similarly, Shiva would represent Brahman or Nirguna Swarupa Ishvara. So, when you look at this section of this chapter, Krishna really represents the Nirguna Swarupa Ishvara, the ultimate formless nature of God, which was discussed earlier as Jnanam and Vijnanam, that transcendent, immanent principle is the what Lord Krishna represents here. So we have to understand that the Anya Devatas, they are Adhisthana Devata for small parts of this creation. For example, Surya Bhagavan is the Adhisthana Devata for eyesight. So his brief is about eyesight. I pray for him. Similarly, you have Adhisthana Devatas for different things. For health, there is a particular Adhisthana Devata. So you go with a prayer for the Adhisthana Devata, asking for a particular favor, then you are missing that infinite or Nirguna Swarupa Ishvara, which is already there within the Adhisthana Devata. So this is not really a comparison between Krishna and Anya Devatas and then saying one is one superior or one is inferior. In all Adhisthana Devatas, underlying them as a Sarvadaram, Sarvadhishtanam, all pervading Sarvagatam, is that Arupa Ishvara or the Brahman principle. So what is being talked about is that in that deity, are you invoking only that deity or are you invoking that Nirguna Swarupa Ishvara principle? That is the question here. This is no longer a comparison between a formed idol of Krishna versus a formed idol of another deity. In all deities, the Sri Krishna principle as Nirguna Swarupa Ishvara exists. Are you invoking that or are you invoking only the Adhisthana Devata? Swamiji gives the example of a check leaf. The value of check leaf is what you write on it. So the value of deity is what you invoke upon the deity. So there is no longer a comparison between Krishna versus other gods. So that is the first thing that we understand. That also leads us to this significant word here, which is avidhi purvakam. That infinite deity is already residing in that Adhisthana Devata. So the first fault is that we don't invoke that infinite deity. That is the first thing. Second is that infinite deity, if I had invoked, he can grant me moksha also. So the second fault is because I don't invoke the infinite, I miss the moksha. The third fault is that this infinite deity, through the way of moksha, can solve all my problems, whereas I am behind only one problem by invoking only the finite deity in that idol. So in this way, there are three tiers of mistake. Avidhi purvakam means unknowingly missing that one in the play of many. So the question also asked is, one God only is blessing all of us through all these finite deities, and that one God is able to give us moksha also. Then why doesn't he give even if we not ask? So the answer given is, what is the sankalpa in the bhakta's mind? If the sankalpa is something finite, God can give only that thing to him. So even if God goes to give moksha, the bhakta may say, I don't want moksha, you solve my present problem for me. So that is the another argument presented in Bhashyam is that if the Lord, infinite Lord, went on giving moksha for everybody, there would not be a creation because there would not be any of the sanchita, agami, and prarabdha karmas. So therefore, this is how the setup is. What we ask, what we get. This chapter is teaching us that see that one in the play of many. Learn to invoke the infinite in all the finite deities. And with this, so the two examples, one Soumya already explained. And the second one is very powerful example that Nishkama bhakti is exercising my right for moksha, whereas sakama bhakti is voluntarily sacrificing my right for moksha. So sakama bhakti is burning off all the sandalwoods because the winter is cold. So I am voluntarily sacrificing my right for moksha each time I take to sakama bhakti. So go to the next shloka. Over to you, Vijayan sir.
Hayog Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verse 24. We have seen in the earlier verses that the Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahman is represented by finite alambanams stroke deities, be it Pratika Alambanam or Pratima Alambanam. Each of these finite deities represent the power to satisfy the various finite goals of a bhakta. The bhakta invokes these deities to satisfy his finite goals. Little does he realize that he is in fact invoking the infinite Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahman through these finite deities. It is like we invoke the value of a blank check leaf by writing an amount on it. Again, we see that in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna defines the infinite. And in Shiv Purana, Shiva is the infinite and all the prayers go to Shiva. And in Devi Bhagavatam, Devi is the infinite and all prayers go to Devi. Also, the ignorance of the fundamental Vedic principles is the cause of sakama puja. The fundamental Vedic principles are the infinite pervades every finite thing. Second, karanam pervades every karyam. Adhishtanam pervades every adhyasa. As have already been said, as Dayanand Swamiji says, that even when you touch a wave in the ocean, knowingly or unknowingly, touching a wave is touching the ocean because the ocean pervades the wave. A sakama bhakta is ignorant of these principles. Hence, he does not understand the infinite Ishvara is all pervading the finite deity that he is worshipping. Only the infinite Ishvara can give infinite moksha. And infinite moksha is far more superior than solving temporary prarabdha karma problems. Next slide, sir. Verse 24. Aham hi sarva yagnanam bhakta cha prabhureva cha na tum mam abhijananti tattvadeta chaivanti te. Indeed, I am alone the enjoyer and the Lord of all yajnas, but they do not know me in reality. Therefore, they fall. Aham hi sarva yagnanam bhakta cha prabhureva cha. Bhagavan Sri Krishna says, I, the infinite Ishvara alone, indirectly receive all the pujas offered to finite devatas. Not only have I received, I alone have the power to give the karma phalaṃ. Prabhu is a very significant word. It means Krishna is the ultimate power behind devatas also. He says, I am the receiver as well as the giver of results. Even though superficially it may appear that those devatas are giving the result. Na tu mam abhijananti tatvatena shaivanti te. People do not understand me in my real nature. Tatvena means my real nature. Krishna indirectly conveys, I have two natures. One is the superficial, unnatural nature, and the other is the essential, real nature. The physical form, the finite form, is a superficial, unreal nature. Manushya Vesham is unreal. Therefore, seeing my physical form, the deluded people think that a finite person, and because of this sheer foolishness and non-discrimination, they make the puja into a sakama puja. Chaivanti means they fall. They lose this opportunity for spiritual growth and moksha. Bhagavan Sri Krishna says, my real nature is formless, attributeless, Satchit Anand Swarupam. Sakama Bhakti can only give you anitya phalam, and nishkama Bhakti can give nitya phalam. This difference people do not know. Therefore, they do not get the benefit of moksha. Hari Om. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Vijayan sir. That was a nice presentation. So when we look at it superficially, it appears as if the deity who is receiving our worship is something different in the case of a nishkama bhakta, and it's different in the case of a sakama bhakta. So what Lord Krishna is again and again bringing to the fore is that where the deity that you worship in sakama bhakti is there, right there, Lord Krishna as the infinite Nirguna Swarupa Ishvara principle is there. So the act of worship is also similar or may also be similar. All that counts is what is the sankalpa that is happening in your mind. Is the sankalpa one of God means world end, that approach sankalpa, or is the sankalpa one of world means and God as end? That is all makes the difference. So for a person who is observing from outside, both might look similar, sakama bhakti and nishkama bhakti. That sankalpa, which only each one of us know, the outside person observing may not know, is all that makes the difference. So Lord Krishna is using strong words here that syavantite, by taking to sakama bhakti, we are, like I said earlier, voluntarily sacrificing our right for moksha. So they fall off the spiritual goal. They are still better than the no bhaktas who take to nishiddha karma, non-believers, which we saw in the first slide. But as compared to the nishkama bhaktas, they have fallen off the spiritual ladder. So tattvatena, sir said, is not no abhijananti, is not knowing the real form of God. What is that real form of God? This was the 9 definitions we saw in the earlier part of the chapter in the second topic. Mastani sarva bhutani. Then we saw mayatatamidam sarvam. We saw jagadavyakta murtina. All these define what is tattva. And by taking to sakama bhakti, we are voluntarily giving up the purpose of knowing that true nature of God. So why do sakama bhaktas take wrong sankalpa? So the reason is that they are unaware, and Lord Krishna is again and again teaching us in these verses that right there, where the deity is there, one can invoke the infinite and then convert our bhakti from sakama bhakti sankalpa to nishkama bhakti sankalpa. Another powerful example given by Swamiji is that you get Ganga water and then you are using it to wash the room. That is what happens when you're doing sakama bhakti instead of doing it the nishkama way. Over to you, Smita madam, for the next sloka.
Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. The 25th verse goes like this. Yanti devavrata devan pitrun yanti pitruvrataha bhutani yanti bhutejyaha yanti mat yojana yanti mat yajinopi mam. In this shloka, both sakama bhakti and nishkama bhakti are placed side by side. Lord Krishna says sakama bhakti will get parichinna phalam, that is finite phalam, and nishkama bhakta will get aparichinna phalam, that is finite phalam. Now let's see the difference between the sakama bhakti and nishkama bhakti. The four main differences between the sakama bhakti and nishkama bhakti are: sakama bhakti is devata specific, whereas in nishkama bhakti it is not devata specific. Sakama bhakti is puja specific and one has to follow rules that has been specified. Whereas in nishkama bhakti these rules are relaxed. Sakama bhakti may or may not fructify. It is indefinite and unpredictable and can be positive, neutral, or negative result can also come. Whereas nishkama bhakti gives only positive results. Sakama bhakti gives finite results and nishkama bhakti gives infinite result. Now, the bhashyam, it goes like this. Yanti gacchanti deva vrataha deveshu vratam niyamo bhaktihi cha yesham cha devavrata devan yanti pitrun agnishashva shashwadadin yanti pitruvrataha shraddhadi kriyaparaha pitrubhaktaha bhutani vinayaka matrugana chatur bhaginyadi yanti bhutejya bhutanam pujakaha yanti madhyajinaha madhyajanashilaha vaishnavaha mam eva samane api ayase mam eva na bhajante ajnanat tena te alpapalabhajah bhavanti. The first quarters refers to sakama bhaktaha worshipping various adhishtana devatas. Here, devavrata is equal to deveshu vratam niyamaha bhaktihi eshamte. Deveshu, this is with regard to devas. Vratam means niyamaha. Here, niyamaha refers to regular puja, disciplined puja, and bhaktihi means reverence and faith. Therefore, Lord Krishna says, Devavrata Devan Yanti means worshippers of Devatas will get only the result of Devata Prapti or anything equivalent to that in the current Janma or Marananantaram. For example, worshippers of Lakshmi will get wealth. And the next group of Sakama Bhaktas, Pitrun Yanti, those people who worship Pitrus, Sapta Pitrus, Devatas are mentioned in the Shastra. They show their bhakti, that is Pitryanti, Shraddhadi Kriyaparaha, that is by performing Shraddha, etc. regularly and properly because of their respect for their own forefathers as well as the Devatas presiding over the Pitruloka. Next is Bhutani Vinayaka Matrugana Chaturbhaginyadi Yanti Bhutejyaha Bhutanam Pujakaha. Vinayaka is enlisted as Adipati of Bhutaganaha, that is Gananam Patiha. Then comes Matrugana. There are 7 Matru Devatas. Matrugana comes under Bhutaganas. Next, those who worship these Bhutas will get blessings of Ihaloka Phalam. And after Marananantaram, they will get Bhutalokas. These all come under Sakama Bhakti. Now Lord Krishna comes to Nishkama Bhakti. He says, whereas Madhyajanaha and those who are worshipping me. Here the word me represents Lord Krishna, who is not an Adhishtana Devata, but who is Parameshwaraha, Purna Ishwaraha, and therefore capable of giving of Purnatvam moksha. And worshipping Purna Ishwara means Nishkama Bhakti. So Madhyajana Shilaha, who are Vaishnava, Vishnu Bhaktaha. And the interesting thing we have to note is to worship Purna Ishwara, you can use the same Adhishtana Devata. Thus, Vinayaka can be Adhishtana Devata also, or in Ganapati Atharva Shesha Upanishad, Vinayaka is picturized as Purna Ishwaraha. Similarly, even though in Saptamatraha, Devi is the only Adhishtana Devata, that Devi herself can represent Purna Ishwaraha. When we do puja and sankalpa, the sankalpa should be, O Lord, you are Srishti Sthiti Laya Karanam Brahma, Purna Ishvaraha, you are capable of giving moksha, and through this puja, what I want is not parichinna phalam, but I want is purna phalam. The sankalpa decides whether it is sakama bhakti or nishkama bhakti. Sankalpa decides whether it is adhishtana devata puja or purna ishvara puja. Therefore, he says, Madhya janashilaha vaishnavaha mam eva yanti. They will come to me. Here, the me represents moksha itself. Shankaracharya ji adds a note. For Purna Phalam, you need not increase the amount of puja. It does not require extra effort. Ignorant people who do not invoke Purna Ishvara and seek moksha, they do not do nishkama puja and seek moksha, all because of aviveka and because of their sakama bhakti. They become partakers of owners of finite results. Thus, the Anvaya is Devavrataha Devan Yanti, Pitruvrataha Pitrum Yanti, Bhuta Ijyaha Bhutani Yanti, Mat Yajinaha Mam Api Yanti. Thank you.
Thank you, madam, for that detailed treatment of the Shankara Bhashyam. Since this is important, I just wish to dwell on this. Let's see the first difference. What is the meaning of deity specific? So it said sakama bhakti is deity specific, whereas nishkama bhakti is not deity specific. So we saw for eyesight the adhisthana devata is Surya. So, and for say health, there is another adhisthana devata, for memory adhisthana devata. So when we say sakama bhakti, you have to go to that specific deity depending upon what you want or what problem you have. Whereas for nishkama bhakti, it is not deity specific. The fundamental reason is that nishkama bhakti is addressed to a deity which is in and through everything. It's in and through all the specific deities, the whole lot that may be there. So therefore, nishkama bhakti is not deity specific. Another probable reason is in sakama bhakti or after material results. So therefore, so many conditions are put that the deity has to be specific. Whereas in nishkama bhakti, you don't want any material result. You want God himself. Therefore, it is not specific. Second difference is similar to the first, that it is puja specific. There are so many things laid out that it should be at this time. Tam tam niyama ashraya. Tam tam niyamam ashraya is the line in the 7th chapter. So many specific things are there. We saw in Kathopanishad, so many bricks should be there in the Yajna Kunda. Otherwise, the result won't come. Swamiji also says that all adhisthana devatas have short temper. So when you want material results, so many conditions are there. It has to be so many flowers, so many leaves, this flower, that leaf, this fruit. But if you want God himself, then all these rules are relaxed. Just that sankalpa, that intention is sufficient. And third one is the results are unpredictable. In fact, if you don't do it properly, one can get prayacchati. One can get patraṃ also for not doing it properly. And of course, the fourth difference is nishkama bhakti can give us ticket for jnana yoga, and therefore can give us the infinite result. So all this is covered. Just wish to bring here the point that the previous sloka ended with syantite. Those who take to sakama bhakta, they fall down the spiritual ladder. So the question is raised, therefore, is sakama bhakti valid at all? So therefore, in this shloka, in the first 3 lines, Lord Krishna says, yes, sakama bhakti is valid. If you pray to devatas, you will get a particular type of benefit. If you pray to pitr devatas, if you pray to bhuta gana, you will have various benefits that come. But he does not recommend that. And instead, in this chapter, his focus is on nishkama bhakti. Now, this example is given by Swamiji that the effort that you put is the same whether you do nishkama bhakti or sakama bhakti. Just imagine that effort, if we put properly, can give us moksha. So that heavy effort, you are spending it only for small things which sakama bhakti can buy. So why are you paying thousands of rupees to buy a fancy balloon? Is the question that Swami Paramarthanandaji jokingly asks while discussing this. Make that effort to get what the ultimate can give, which is moksha purushartha or parama purushartha. Now, the next two verses are related, so I'll give the comments after both of them are over. Now, I invite Kirti Madam to present the 26th shloka. Over to you, Kirti Madam.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Bhagavad Gita, verse 9.26. In this chapter, Sri Krishna talks about bhakti as the means for samsara nimruti and moksha prapti. Bhakti refers to a range of sadhanas: karma, upasana, jnana lakshana bhakti, which purifies mind, enables integration of mind, Vedanta Shravana Manana Nididhyasana, leading to the subtlest form of bhakti. Along with the improvement of sadhanas, appreciation of God changes from Ekarupa Ishvara to Aneka Rupa to Arupam Ishvara. With this evolution, the quality of a person's bhakti evolves from mandha, madhyama to uttama bhakti and sakama to nishkama bhakti. Sri Krishna says, Jnani's bhakti is motiveless, nishkama, uttama, whereas Ajnani's bhakti will have some motive, and based on the motive, bhakti is classified into two, sakama and nishkama. In sakama bhakti, an Ajnani worships the Lord for the sake of everything else other than God. He is motivated by desire for dharma, artha, kama, materialistic desires. Nishkama bhakti of an Ajnani is also motivated bhakti. This person is not interested in artha, kama because he knows their limitation and wants to use karma and upasana bhakti for realizing moksha, for sadhana chatushtaya sampatti to come. Person prays for purity of mind, for shastra vichara and guru prapti. The type of bhakti described here in this verse is not about gnani bhakta or an artha or artharthi bhakta or sakama bhakta, but of a jignasu bhakta, mumukshu bhakta, who is an agnani samsari but is seeking liberation or God. Jignasu is the seeker after knowledge, who feels he is ignorant and who wants the grace of God in order to have wisdom. His bhakti wants God as the result of his puja. He offers something, anything, without a precondition. Sri Krishna says in this verse 9.26, patraṃ puṣpaṃ phalaṃ tōyaṃ yo me bhaktyā prayacchati tadaham bhakti upahritam ashnami prayatātmanaha. Translation: with devotion, whoever offers me a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, that devout offering of the pure-minded one, I accept. Slide 4. Sri Krishna describes this devotee as prayatātmanaha, a person with a purified mind. Prayatam means shuddham. Atma here means manaha, one with shuddha chittaha. A purified mind does not have desire for finite goals. Raga-rahita nishkamatvam is purity. This Jignasu Bhaktas Bhakti is full of Ishvara Pranabhava and Prasada Buddhi. That is, he is a karma yogi. Sri Krishna says, since he has got such Nishkama Bhakti, Aham Ashnami, I receive the offering. So when the offering is bhakti upahritam, the flower, leaf, fruit, etc. become only the medium of offering pure devotion to the Lord. This arpanam with appropriate sankalpa is very easy. Sukha Aradhana. Swami Paramartha Nanda says, Sankalpa decides whether it is sakama or nishkama bhakti. Sankalpa decides whether it is Adhishtana Devata Puja or Purna Ishvara Puja. In Sakama Bhakti, all the rules that are dear to that Devata are followed, like strict puja with the appropriate flower leaf Devata matching. But in the case of Nishkama Bhakti, those rules are not given any importance. Any patraṃ, any puṣpaṃ, any phalaṃ, tōyaṃ offer is okay. You don't have to offer many. Even one leaf, one flower is sufficient to do puja. But only one condition is that it must be a devout offering to the Devata, invoking Purna Ishvara in him. Bhaktyā prayacchati. He seeks Purna phalam, aparichinna phalam, that is liberation from samsara or moksha. Jignasu bhaktas nishkama bhakti and sankalpa must be lokakshemartam sankalpa. One should not bring in ahankara or mamakara. The moment bhakta brings family members in the sankalpa during puja, it is no more nishkama bhakti. It becomes sakama. His bhakti and sankalpa must be free from kama and impurity of mind. Lord Krishna says, I will receive the offering of this pure-minded one. Thank you, sir. Hari Om.
Thank you, madam, for that nice presentation. Now go to the next sloka. Over to you, Amitabh sir, for the next sloka, the last sloka of today.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Chapter 9, verse 27. Yat karosi yadasnasi yat juhosi dadasi yat tapasyasi kaunteya tat kurusva madarpanam. This verse in chapter 9 is among the more popular verses in Bhagavad Gita. It serves like a manual on how to spiritualize everyday living. The Bhagavad Gita offers us profound wisdom at a very subtle level on how to achieve moksha or freedom. But the beauty of Bhagavad Gita is that it also offers very down-to-earth practical advice on day-to-day living. It is like a manual for life. For example, the later part of chapter 2 provides beautiful advice on how to manage anger and desire. Similarly, the verses in chapter 6 are beautiful instructions on how to go about meditation. Similarly, this verse in chapter 9, verse 27, provides wonderful advice on how to spiritualize our day-to-day life just by a simple change in attitude. No wonder great personalities like Bhagavad Gita, no wonder great personalities like Mahatma Gandhi use the Bhagavad Gita as a manual for life. With that background, let us get into the verse proper. In this verse, Lord Krishna advises us on how to dedicate any action to the Lord. In the previous verse, Lord Krishna says how to make an offering to God. But let us say that the person has nothing to offer to God because the person is very poor, or as is often the case, the person does not have any time to go to the temple to make an offering. In that case, God is very benevolent. God says, no problem, I'll make it easier for you. You don't have to do anything, or you don't have to offer anything special to me. Just observe your day-to-day activities. You will anyway be performing various activities. You will be eating, you'll be going to work. You may even perform some mundane activities like cleaning the floor. All these activities can be performed in the name of God. There is no need to worry that God resides only in the temple where you can go and make an offering. God resides everywhere, in your home, at your workplace, outdoors and indoors. You don't need to do anything special. All you need to do is this. When you're performing your activity, just close your eyes and say, "Oh God, please accept my activity as an offering to you." For example, let's say you're sitting to eat your food. Just tell a prayer. Annapurna Sada Purne Shankara Pranavallabhe Jnana Vairagya Siddhyartham Bhiksham Devi Cha Parvati. Or for that matter, any other prayer that may be your favorite. Similarly, for all other daily activities or nitya karma as we call it, offer them as an offering to the Lord. This will spiritualize our everyday living. Now, all it takes is the flip of a switch. A flip of a switch in our attitude. We are doing the same activity, but now we are performing it by flipping our attitude. Just a simple change in attitude can bring about a profound effect. If we are sad, it can make us happy. If we are stressed, it can make us stress free. If we are feeling sick, it can turn us into health. Any mundane activity, a boring activity, could be transformed into a joyous pursuit. It can even help us dissolve our ego because if we reduce the doership by attributing the activity to the Lord, then the ego reduces and dissolves. All this can enhance our happiness, our relationships, and our well being. So, dear friends, let's perform all our activities as though it is an offering to the Lord and experience a profound transformation in our lives. Hari Om.
Thank you, Amitabh sir, for that nice presentation. Now let us look at these two shlokas together. Having discussed what is missed in sakama bhakti, what are the differences between the two, he comes to glorify the nishkama bhakti. He has got our attention, our interest, and now is the time to revel in nishkama bhakti. So in the 26th sloka, bhaktyā prayacchati, that bhaktyā refers to nishkama bhakti. This shloka is purely about nishkama bhakti. Lord Krishna is telling now that you are turned your attention to nishkama bhakti. That means to say that you are looking at God himself as the very end. You're using all your material accomplishments as the means. Your focus is not on material ends now, it is on God himself. In that case, rules are relaxed. There is no, this deity has to be like this, or the form of puja has to be like this. The intention, the sankalpa, the idea behind what is there in your mind, that becomes important. He is now willing to receive from us whatever we can offer to him selflessly out of gratitude for all that he has given to us already. So we have no more demands, no special prayers. We are just purely out of love for the God we are offering. So he says patraṃ, puṣpaṃ, phalaṃ, tōyaṃ. So leaf, flower, even water, he is willing to accept. Swamiji points out that these are all in singular. So one leaf, one flower, all that he is willing to accept. And in this next sloka, so yad karosi, karosi is explained in the Bhashyam by Swamiji as a reference to Laukika karma. It is not a reference to Vaidika karma. Swayam praptaha is the word used in the Bhashyam by Adi Shankaracharya. So depending on the circumstances, we might come up to do some karma. So it may not follow the scriptural injunctions which are mentioned in the scriptures. So all that, if we are able to look at everything around us as Vishwarupa Ishvara, if we are able to do with Ishvara Arpanam and Ishvara Prasada, then that becomes nishkama bhakti. Asnasi is about whatever we eat 3 times of the day, and juhosi as against karosi refers to Vaidika karmas and whatever austerities we practice. Lord Krishna is saying, do it with a nishkama approach. So Lord Krishna is emphasizing on nishkama bhakti being the true bhakti, where world is a means and God is an end. And sakama bhakti, can it really be called as bhakti itself? Because it is really worshipping the world, not really worshipping the God. So we can see in this ellipse in the center that these are common things which are associated with nishkama bhakti. Nishkama bhakta is a karma yogi, he is a jignasu, he is able to practice Ishwararpanam and Ishvara Prasada, and he views everything around him as Vishwarupa Ishvara. With this, I end the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Sundar sir, and all speakers of the day for your active participation in this divine journey. We shall meet in the next class of Mandukya Upanishad, session 22, on Friday, October 18th. Now, it's time to conclude the session with Shanti Mantra. ॐ पूर्णमधं पूर्णमिधं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः हरि ओम